All right, welcome. Today we are diving deep into the world of specialty chemicals. It's a space where some really big moves are happening. A massive international deal just went down, connecting a giant in India with a high-tech manufacturer right in the heart of America. So let's kick things off with a number that got everyone talking. Yep, that's the number, around $150 million. Think about that. That's the price an Indian chemical giant, a company called Anupam Rasayan, just shelled out to buy a company in Kansas. And that's the big question, right? Why? What on earth is going on in Kansas that's worth a cool nine-figure investment? See, this isn't just about a big, flashy number. It's a story about a really smart strategy, huge ambition, and the plan to build a global powerhouse. So stick with me, because we're going to unpack the real logic behind this deal and show you exactly why it's such a big deal. Okay, so first things first, let's get the key fact on the table. We have an Indian company, Anupam Rasayan, and they just bought a US-based company called Jayhawk Fine Chemicals. This is a huge deal for them because it's their first major step into actually manufacturing on US soil. We're talking a massive leap in their global expansion plans. Now, to really get why this deal happened, you first have to understand who we're talking about. So let's get to know the two key players at the center of this whole story. All right, so on one side, you've got the buyer, Anupam Rasayan. They're a big, cost-efficient manufacturer out of India, pulling in around $165 million in revenue. Then on the other side, you have the company they bought, Jayhawk. Now, Jayhawk's smaller, about $78 million in revenue, and this is key, they are a high-margin, super specialized player in the US. They've got unique tech and really strong relationships with some of the biggest brands in the world. And that brings us right to the heart of it all, the strategy. Why this specific company, and why right now? Believe me, this was no random shopping spree. This was a super calculated move to create what you could call, well, the perfect chemistry.
Just take a look at where Jayhawk makes its money. A whopping 65% of their revenue comes from these high-value performance materials. This is the prize. This is what Anupam was after. It lets them break out of their usual markets and jump right into some seriously high-growth areas. We're talking about the advanced materials needed for things like cutting-edge electronics. So if you break it down, this deal is really a triple win for Anupam. First, boom, they get a manufacturing footprint right inside the US. Second, they get instant access to all of Jayhawk's specialized technology. And third, they now have a direct line to Jayhawk's amazing list of top-tier global customers. That's a huge get.
And this is where it gets really cool, especially on a technical level. See, Anupam is already really good at the foundational chemistry stuff, but Jayhawk, they bring some unique, high-value tricks to the table, like something called Suzuki coupling. I mean, this is a Nobel Prize-winning method for literally stitching carbon atoms together with incredible precision. So when you combine these two toolkits, wow, you get a much, much more powerful and versatile tech platform. What we're looking at here is a classic business strategy called forward integration. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine a really good baker who already owns their own flour mill. Now, what if that baker goes out and buys a fancy luxury pastry shop in the best part of town? That's what Anupam is doing. They're moving up the value chain, getting closer and closer to the final, super valuable products their chemicals help create. Okay, so you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but can they actually pull it off? Well, what's so interesting is that Anupam has done something like this before, just in the opposite direction. And looking at how that went gives us some really powerful clues about what they're planning for Jayhawk. So, let's rewind to 2022. Anupam bought a company called Tanfac, which was one of their key suppliers of raw materials. This move is called backward integration. And to go back to our baker analogy, this is like the baker buying the flour mill itself to make sure they always have a steady supply of flour. For Anupam, this gave them total control over the crucial ingredients they needed for their fluorination chemistry. So how'd that little experiment work out for them? Well, since Anupam took over, Tanfac's revenue has tripled. Its market cap, the total value of the company, has shot up a staggering 7 times. And its profitability, we're talking about EBITDA margins here, which is a key measure of operating profit, has jumped to a super healthy 23%. So the point here is crystal clear. Anupam has a playbook for this stuff, and it works. They know how to buy a company, plug it into their system, and make it grow.
The massive success they had with Tanfac gives you a ton of confidence that they know exactly what they're doing with their new American prize, Jayhawk.
So, let's pull back and look at the big picture. What does all this mean for the future? Well, this acquisition is all about building something new, a combined global powerhouse. Right off the bat, this deal creates a much bigger company. You take Anupam's roughly $165 million in revenue, add Jayhawk's $78 million, and bam, you've got a new combined entity with a pro forma revenue of nearly $250 million.
And here you can just see the whole strategy laid out perfectly. They now control the entire chain. It starts with raw materials from Tanfac, moves to the advanced intermediates made by Anupam back in India, and goes all the way to the super high-purity performance materials made by Jayhawk in the US, which then goes straight to those critical end markets. It's a beautiful thing.
So what are those end markets we're talking about? Well, just think about the fastest-growing, most important technologies on the planet right now. We're talking EV batteries, the semiconductor chips in, well, everything, and the advanced materials needed for aviation. This move puts the new, combined company right smack in the middle of all that innovation. You know, there's this quote from the company that really just nails it. The goal, they say, is to create a powerful dual-site model. So what does that mean? It means they can go to their customers and offer the best of both worlds. You get the high-tech, onshore R&D and production right here in the US, but it's all backed up by a super cost-efficient, massive manufacturing base in India. It's a truly global, fully integrated supply chain. And all of this brings us to one final big question about the future. Anupam Rasayan has now pulled off both backward and forward integration. They've essentially mastered their entire value chain, from the raw dirt all the way to the final customer. So with a proven playbook that we know works and this brand new strategic foothold in the United States, the big question isn't if they're going to grow, it's what high-tech industry will this new chemical giant decide to power next.